Turnpike Sports is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. And welcome to Turnpike Sports. I'm Dave Weishuttle, and as always, I am joined by my producer and co-host, Doug Weishuttle. Doug, how's the quarantine going?
Quarantine is proceeding as planned. I'm going nuts.
Because watching lots of TV, lots of YouTube.
I'm actually finding a lot of stuff on YouTube. I'm finding a lot of stuff that I hadn't seen on TV before. So TV viewing is at a minimum because I'm getting tired of seeing certain things.
Yep.
Trying to keep busy with a lot of work. Thank God we have our own studios with this show, so we're able to continue doing the show and watch what's going on with not only the world itself, but the sports world in particular, with a lot of different things happening.
Yeah,
a lot of really interesting things. They had the Ocho on March 22nd,
which was very interesting. Sports you rarely see. What was that in the movie Dodgeball? If it's almost a sport, it's on the Ocho.
And I think. Normally ESPN waits until a certain day to do the Ocho. I think it's in August because of the 8.
Yeah.
But I think it was smart that they did an Ocho.
I got to tell you,
it was
perfect timing by ESPN. Thank God for ESPN because they're really showing a lot of sports. They're even doing replays. Some of the games the classic games and with basketball and NCAA, and it's pretty fun.
I will say this. What's going on with the world is actually bringing out a lot of creativity and a lot of the programming and all that stuff because they're doing classic games. People are making their own brackets because there's no March Madness now. I mean, I saw some guys in Jersey doing a pizza bracket. Other guys are doing classic plays against each other. Even some of the
lots of great stuff happening on social media too.
Yeah,
it's interesting things that people are doing.
Yeah, no, it's creativity.
Well, we got a great show coming up. Coming up is part 2 of my interview with Albert Chen. He is the senior editor for Sports Illustrated, and he wrote Billion Dollar Fantasy, the high-stakes game between FanDuel and DraftKings that upended sports in America. Really interesting guy, really interesting book, extremely interesting subject regarding FanDuel and DraftKings and their evolution in what they have become today. And then we're going to have a By the Numbers section for Turnpike Sports. Also, we're going to have the Turnpike Sports Book Report where we talk about what's going on in the sports books across the country. But
which still isn't much.
Which isn't much. And like I said, it's been a busy week, so let's take a ride on the Turnpike. And today's trip down the Turnpike is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today, and now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Exit 1.
Okay, with everything going on with the pandemic and a lot of the sports books not really having too much to offer players right now, I found an interesting story with baseball. Sportradar and Major League Baseball had been planning to launch a new virtual baseball offering for licensed gaming operators, both in the U.S. and overseas.
Okay.
They were planning to do this at the launch of the beginning of the baseball season. We don't know when actual real baseball is going to be starting, so this may actually start up, and it looks like it's coming at the right time because there's no baseball being played. This is going to be a virtual baseball game.
Interesting.
It's going to be based upon the historical betting data from the league.
Okay.
And they have taken over 1,300 motion shots over a period of time to develop this. It's using motion capture technology for baseball players that they've seen on broadcasts, as well as some other stuff they've been doing. And they have been developing the software to make it a real-life looking baseball game being played.
So are these going to be animated players? Because this weekend we saw Fox Sports doing the virtual auto racing. Now, is that going to be like that? I mean, are there going to be automated players that we're looking at, or are these real-life players that we're going to be
We're going to be looking
watching?
at virtual players.
Okay.
Now, whether or not they're going to have virtual people playing them, I don't know. This is with Major League Baseball with Sportradar, so you may see some like what you saw with the racing.
That the actual racers were controlling their own cars.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
And before when I first saw this doing the show prep, I came across this before I saw this weekend's race. The Fox broadcast, the NASCAR.
It was actually
iRacing.
pretty interesting to watch.
That's what I'm saying. The graphics were incredible. Very realistic.
Racing.
Yeah, very realistic. And, before I saw that, I was thinking it was going to be looked like a video game. But maybe given the fact that some of these graphics and the statistical data they're going to be using underneath the motion capture stuff, it actually may turn out to be looking almost like a real baseball game. The Fox broadcast, when you watched it for the racing, they had fans in the stands. They had virtual fans.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't real people, but they were actual virtual.
No, let me tell you something. The graphics were
participants.
very impressive with Fox Sports. They did a great job. And who did that? There was a company up in Massachusetts.
In Chelmsford, Massachusetts, it was iRacing.
They really good job.
Yeah, no, it was very surprising, but very well done.
Yeah.
Exit 2.
And speaking of virtual racing, like we had just been talking about,
that was NASCAR, right?
NASCAR partnered with iRacing to do it. Now you have coming up, or actually going on now, as a matter of fact, Formula One is going to be doing virtual racing as well.
Great.
They're going to be continuing their season. The Virtual Grand Prix Series will see a number of current F1 drivers compete virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know exactly if it's going to be the exact same type of course, that a lot of these races were going to be played on, because when Fox did when NASCAR did their iRacing Sunday, they had one track. They chose one certain track, and they did it. It was the virtual training track they have down simulating Florida. That I think is Daytona or whatever the track was. But
racing I like is the Formula Ones when they're racing through a city. I mean, that is so great. I mean, I live in the Northeast where you can't have racing like that because the roads are so terrible, because wintertime there's just potholes everywhere and you really have to redo. I think Boston one year tried to do something like that, and they just couldn't be done because the roads were too narrow, and something was strange about
Boston's
it.
a difficult city to have a Grand Prix.
Yeah, but I love those races where they're racing through the city.
Well, they're going to be doing a whole slew of these races too.
Now, is that Formula One? Is this the same kind of company?
This is Formula One. This is this type of stuff. This is going to be. They're going to run this through the end of May. They're hoping to be up and running in real time for one of their races at the end. I'm going to mispronounce this. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix. That's going to take place at the end of May. If they can't do
Azerbaijan or something like that, I don't know what that is.
If they can actually do a physical race, they're going to do it. That's their target race, to go back to real racing. If not, they're going to continue doing the iRacing. They are going to be the third group to do iRacing. Yeah, Formula One is number 3. NASCAR did it first.
Yep.
Announced it first. They're doing it now. The Supercars Championship has also decided to go virtual.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't know exactly what the Supercars Championship is, but you're starting to see a shift, and it's actually a good shift in the industry.
Yeah.
To cover the the social distancing that's going on right now.
Well, look, the one thing that is coming out of this quarantine and the pandemic, I think, is the rise of online casinos, online poker, and esports. I mean, if you need to watch sports, that's your saving grace right now. If you need to play in a casino, you can play slots in certain states. I believe it's Pennsylvania. Well, that's online poker. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Las Vegas and Delaware. You can play online poker, and certainly the online casinos are helping people out just to cope with the quarantine. So.
But I think you're going to see more esports playing and betting before you start seeing a national infrastructure for sports betting and online casinos.
Sure.
So it'll be fun to watch how these things continue to evolve here.
Exit 3.
Continuing on our quarantine life rundown.
Okay.
The Big 3 Basketball League, which Ice Cube's creation.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Yep. They are planning to do a quarantine tournament.
Is that virtual now?
No, this is real.
Oh, okay.
Whether or not they're going to be able to do it is still up in the air, but they plan to do a quarantine reality show style 3-on-3 basketball tournament in April.
Okay.
They're looking at doing 16 to 22 players.
All right.
Sort of like,
and I'm assuming they've all been tested, and
they will be tested.
They will be tested. Good. And will there be people watching them, or
this is going to be sort of like a Big 3 basketball tournament melded with a Big Brother style house.
Oh, they're all living together.
They're all going to live in one house.
Okay.
And they're going to be playing teams with each other. And every time someone who they've all been tested, they'll all be tested, and they'll be if they're negative, they're going to be participating in all this. They're going to have a house in Los Angeles where they're going to build a basketball court with it.
Okay.
And they're going to be living together. And while they're living together and not playing in the tournament, there's going to be cameras in the house filming what they're doing while they're not playing. So the format's going to be 7 rounds. Teammates are going to be shuffling. They're not going to have the same players on every team each time they play. And every time a player accumulates 3 losses, they're eliminated from the event. I don't know what eliminated means. I don't know if they're going to be asked to leave the house.
Hopefully not.
But yeah, they're going to be doing that. Cash prizes for individual winning players. And if a player breaks the quarantine, they leave the house for any reason, they're gone.
No, good for them.
So they're going to be doing that.
They're working within the rules. Good for them.
It's a charity thing too.
Great.
So it's going to be televised. If it goes as planned, they're going to be doing this tournament. Their season is scheduled to start June 20th in Memphis. Now that's another date that's in doubt.
Exit 4.
We had just talked briefly about the Ocho.
Yes.
On Sunday, March 22nd, the ESPN2 became ESPN the Ocho, ESPN 8, whatever you want to call it. One of the sports, I guess you can call it a sport, one of the events, how about that?
Okay, activities
that they televised, and it's growing because of what's going on with the country. I hate bringing the pandemic up all the time, but because of the self-isolation, the social distancing, the Marble Racing League is seeing a growth in viewership. So,
yeah, I think I saw a little bit of this. This was marbles and
in teams.
In teams, and I guess they were on a platform with different barriers, and I guess you just move your arms up and down to move the barrier, to move the actual platform, and the marbles go through.
No, they weren't moving. They weren't using their arms.
So what were they doing?
The tracks were made in such a way that they were going downhill on an angle.
Okay.
So the marbles were always moving at a good clip.
Okay, I see. So they weren't controlling it at all.
They weren't controlling it at all.
Because I just saw a portion of this, and I just saw the marbles going down the platform.
It was interesting because they had 2 different types. They had the ones running the tracks,
All right.
Then they had the I guess it was like an elimination section.
For anyone,
it looked like Hungry Hippos, but played with marbles.
Okay, so let me know, for anyone who's watched The Price is Right, can we say this is like that Plinko game where it goes and moves around
I guess you could call it that,
and it goes down different certain
very intricate
pathways,
courses, but very intricate courses they made for the big runs. Because they were timed, and they had a commentator who was actually calling it like a car race, and they have seen, and let me get these numbers right because it's just an incredible increase, a 339% increase in YouTube viewing on their channel.
I saw it. I watched it.
That was on TV.
I've never heard of it before this weekend.
10 years old.
Really? Okay. I've never heard of it before.
Here's another little surprising fact. The commentator for the Marble Racing League right now used to run his own Marble Racing League.
Okay.
And it went out of business, and he came over, and they have him doing the commentating. Let's see. This is just some really interesting stuff. Each marble is assigned a team, with names like the Rojo Rollers, Savage Speeders, Balls of Chaos.
All right.
Balls of Chaos, by the way, won.
Yeah, congratulations,
Yep.
Balls of Chaos.
And they have professional logos. And the people actually running the teams have apparel. So
everyone can have apparel nowadays.
Well, they actually have to wear them when they're doing it. So, they construct their own courses, and it was fun to watch because some of these guys, when they were running down the courses, you could see the marble get stuck. They couldn't get around some of the curves and some of the barriers on some of the tracks.
So if a marble gets stuck, what do they do?
They're done.
Okay. You just gotta hope it moves.
Yeah, you gotta hope something else dislodges it. And
I watched it. I didn't watch it that closely. I didn't get the rules down. So
there are a couple different aspects to it, and if you want, I would tell people go ahead and watch. It's fun to watch, and people are starting to bet on it.
Okay. People will bet on
one of the offshore books was doing lines on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say the name of the offshore book because we got our licensed sports books to who advertise with us, but we're not going to take care do anything like that. So, but take a look. It's actually fun to watch.
And today's trip down the Turnpike was brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today, and now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
And to get in touch with Turnpike Sports, call or text us at 609-512-5910. At Turnpike Sports is our social media handle on Facebook and Twitter. info@turnpikesportsradio.com is our email address. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the show through Pandora Podcasts, iHeartMedia, iTunes, and also the radio.com mobile app also carries the show. You can also watch us on your smart TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Just head on over to turnpikesportsradio.com and click on the smart TV channel button.
And stick around after this because I have part 2 of my interview with Albert Chen, author of $1 Billion Fantasy, the high-stakes game between FanDuel and DraftKings that upended sports in America. Then a little later on, we're going to have our Turnpike Sports by the Numbers segment, and also the book report where we talk about what's going on in the sports books across the country. So stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports. In a market already crowded by a number of online options, PointsBet simply stands out. And if you still haven't signed up with PointsBet, now is the perfect time. Hockey and basketball are in full swing and baseball is just starting up. And hey, March Madness is right around the corner, so don't wait and sign up today. Awesome daily promos, odds boosters you won't find anywhere else, early payout promos, it's all at PointsBet.com, now live in New Jersey and Iowa. And don't forget to try your hand at points betting, where your potential winnings or losses from a bet aren't fixed, but variable right up until the end of the game. The more you're right, the more you win. And now PointsBet has a brand new offer for new customers. Just sign up using our promo code PIKE, and you'll receive 4 risk-free bets up to $1,000. This is the largest welcome offer in the sports betting marketplace, and we do encourage new players to take advantage. And make sure you use our promo code PIKE to get this special sign-up offer. PointsBet. Bets you won't believe, moments you'll never forget. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey or Iowa to place a bet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply.
Free stuff is awesome, but free stuff that will spice up your bedroom is even better. Just go to adamandeve.com and select almost any one item for 50% off, and then we'll load on the free stuff. Just enter this very exclusive code, BABE16 at checkout, and you'll get 10 tantalizing free gifts, including a sexy item for him, a special toy for her, and a third item you'll both enjoy. And 6 extra special bonus items that are sure to rev your engine, pique your curiosity, and even blow you away. Plus, free shipping! Always sent in discreet packaging. Go to adamandeve.com now. Get 50% off plus the 10 free gifts when you enter the exclusive offer code BABE16. That's BABE16, because without it, no free stuff. That's BABE16 at adamandeve.com.
Welcome back to Turnpike Sport. And right now is part 2 of my interview with author Albert Chen, the author of $1 Billion Fantasy, the high-stakes game between FanDuel and DraftKings that upended sports in America. Well, let me ask you about that. The employee's name was Ethan Haskell, which was a very interesting part of the book. Were the states heading that way anyway, and did the incident with Ethan Haskell just accelerate the situation?
Were they headed in that way in terms of
really regulating and taking a hard look at these companies?
That's a great point. I mean, I do think that it was inevitable, and I think there was probably there was certainly like arrogance on the part of both companies, thinking that we're just going to spend a ridiculous amount of money and, just bulldoze everyone. And this idea that they could just splash their ads everywhere and assume that everyone would just be fine with it was definitely pretty, really arrogant, and they would sort of admit that now. In terms of the employees, that was just a tremendous oversight on the company, part of the companies, where they just did not really sort of see this as a problem, when clearly, just from the outside looking in, if you have employees making more money, winning, these massive prizes than they were making at their day jobs, at the fantasy companies themselves, that is certainly would seem like a huge problem to you and me. But things were just moving so quickly where they just wanted to grow that they just overlooked this. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it wasn't going to be Ethan Haskell, it was going to be something else, for sure.
One of the epic battles that FanDuel and DraftKings had to fight was in New York. For those who don't know, what was New York's issue with regard to daily fantasy sports? And it seems like it's still going on in the courts of New York. What's the status of daily fantasy sports in the state of New York?
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, that's sort of where the main drama played out, was in the state of New York, in terms of, because, obviously New York State is a big state, and, whether they were going to be allowed to operate in New York was really ultimately going to determine sort of the fate of the companies and what their really, viability was going forward. Eric Schneiderman, the Attorney General for New York, shut them down in, I believe it was November 2015. He saw all the ads, things snowballed, and his determination was that there was, a few things. I mean, the fact that certainly that these companies were kind of pretty clearly sports gambling companies, and sports gambling is illegal in New York State. That was a problem, but also the fact that, what he actually targeted was the advertising and kind of these ads telling you and me that we actually have a chance to win a lot of money. In fact, have a really good chance at that, when in actuality, the odds are pretty slim because, you're playing against people who really know what they're doing, and the odds are just like really stacked against you. So ultimately what happened was that they settled. I mean, the two companies did pay a settlement with the state, and there was a daily fantasy sports bill that passed in New York, so that daily fantasy was legal in New York and in New York going forward. So that was sort of dicey, and that was sort of resolved in the fall of 2016. But now, there is a continuing drama. I think that it sort of changes every day in terms of daily fantasy. Yeah. But I think now we're getting to really what is the larger picture, and really sort of the more important sort of story is, sports gambling, because now FanDuel and DraftKings are sports gambling companies, and it really is about the legality of sports gambling in states like New York and states where it is currently illegal. It's legal in New Jersey. DraftKings and FanDuel are thriving in New Jersey because you and I can bet on our phones in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. But the question now is, how quickly are people going to be able to do that across the country?
You mentioned sports betting, and I found it very interesting in your book that you described the sports betting establishment in Las Vegas. How did they view daily fantasy sports? Did they see it more of a new opportunity, or was it a threat to their monopoly on sports betting?
Well, they certainly perceived it as a threat to their business in sports gambling. Now, I would argue, and I think a lot of people would agree with me now, is that in actuality, the daily fantasy sports product was not a threat because it was pretty small peanuts compared to what their business was. Now, yeah, was there a threat of them chipping away at their business and certainly potentially, you get into daily fantasy, you're ultimately going to be into sports gambling. I think that, that those are legitimate questions. But, Vegas, in terms of their casinos and their sports books, I mean, they certainly viewed these companies as a threat and were certainly, big adversaries against what the growth that these companies were experiencing, particularly in Nevada. So, there was certainly, Nevada, shut them down, and for a long period of time, like those two companies, it's funny because the landscape changes so much that actually, I'm not sure in terms of daily fantasy what their current situation is in Nevada, but I'm almost fairly certain that they certainly in a number of states, FanDuel and DraftKings are not able to operate their daily fantasy operations. But what I will say is their business is really about sports wagering going forward, and that is now sort of the big play for not only them, but certainly for Nevada, those casinos there, and for these major gambling companies and entities and media companies going forward.
I got to ask you, in your opinion, would we have sports betting today if DraftKings and FanDuel did not come out with daily fantasy sports? I mean, did the daily fantasy sports allow for an easier transition to sports betting?
Well, I don't think anyone says the transition was easy, certainly for these companies, but I see your point. It's a great question because things, I think did accelerate faster. No doubt they accelerated faster than what any of us expected. And it is a good question. We certainly would not be in this exact point without these two companies. I do think what's interesting is, New Jersey is a good example and really at the forefront of what things are, the way they're headed and the way where we're going forward. And look, DraftKings and FanDuel are the two biggest players. FanDuel is the biggest in New Jersey. And so, given that logic, I think certainly going forward to view these two companies as positioned to be very well positioned to be the two main sports gambling players in the country tells you all you need to know. I think that, they are well positioned in terms of getting their customers And the awareness that their ads did was just like, at least get the conversation going. You had a lot of media covering sort of the intersection of money and sports and mobile sort of games. And so like it was just in the conversation and certainly got on the radars of states. So that really sort of accelerated things in a large sense. Now, I do think sports gambling, nationwide is inevitable, but, we're still at a point where in New York, you can't wager on your phones and have to go to, these two casinos upstate to do it. And in the vast majority of states, sports gambling is still not legal.
You mentioned it. Not only FanDuel and DraftKings are the top daily fantasy sports providers, but they're also two of the most successful sports books in this country. I got to ask you, would one company be as successful if it wasn't for the other one being there? I mean, do you think they drove each other to the success they enjoy today?
Well, it's not only driving each other to the success, and that's a great point because it really is like an escalation that they just like were hyper competitive and just like went after each other and spent a lot of money and got that awareness out there. But, on the flip side is they would not have had, they were really in turmoil in 2015, 2016, and they would not sort of be in that position to the point where they really almost were completely decimated. And they wouldn't have been in that position without sort of the hyper competitiveness between the two. But, they pushed each other to innovate, to really sort of get going in terms of innovation and really pushing each other to just be as the best version of this that they could possibly be. So in that sense, I think they pushed each other without question. But yeah, it was really, this hyper competitiveness, like in one sense, they're still standing and well positioned, but in another sense, they were really battered in ways that they, I think a lot of the employees still go through PTSD in terms of some of the just, they had questions about whether some executives were maybe even going to go to jail. So that was really sort of, it was a traumatic time personally for a lot of people within the companies.
I got to tell you, it seems like these two companies are always in the news. I mean, I guess last month we had a husband and wife reality star get denied $1 million from DraftKings because of suspected collusion. Is it just the nature of their business that there are always going to be controversies regarding their services?
Yeah, look, whenever money's involved, there's going to be controversy. And I think like the main controversies going forward, these two companies and every gambling entity is that's really sort of, I think, what next wave of problems is like, how is this going to affect, people's lives and potentially like damage people's lives? We know that it's good for teams in the sports industry. There's a lot of interest and that's great for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people who are going to make a lot of money. But I do think there are going to be a lot of negative effects. And I think that people who bring up those points, as long as they know what they're talking about, have really good concerns.
Give us an update on some of the main players from FanDuel and DraftKings. I know Jason Robbins is still with DraftKings. However, Nigel Eccles and his wife Leslie are still fighting to get proceeds from the sale of FanDuel, which is amazing. Can you give us an update on what's going on with everyone involved?
Sure. So in terms of the founders of DraftKings, all three co-founders are still there. As you mentioned, Jason Robbins is CEO, and the company's doing well. It's positioned well as a sports gambling company going forward. They did raise a lot of money, so there's a lot of questions about at what time is this company going to be profitable. But in terms of awareness and their sort of footprint in the landscape, they're in good shape. FanDuel is doing exceptionally well as a company. I think that a lot of people view them as potentially better positioned than DraftKings potentially in a lot of states, certainly in New Jersey, where I think like that's like an important place where this war is taking place. They've done extremely well, and but all five co-founders of FanDuel are no longer with the company. As you mentioned, there is a lawsuit that was recently filed that includes the co-founders, but also 100 other former employees. Essentially, they just want their piece of the pie because FanDuel, they were acquired by a UK sports betting titan out there, and that was a big moment for the company. But a lot of the early sort of stakeholders were shut out. And look, it's certainly tragic that a lot of these co-founders were shut out and don't are walking away with nothing from that big acquisition. Others would argue, and certainly this is the FanDuel argument, is that, look, this is the risk you take when you raise hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, is that your stake of the company gets smaller and smaller. Now, so that drama is still yet to be played out, but in terms of the story of the 5 FanDuel founders, pretty satisfying ending in that, their story is over. They left their industry and the company, and now really it's just like a question of how much money they're going to get out of this, if any, at the end of the day. Now, what their achievement is pretty, I think deserves certainly recognition, and it's an incredible story of 5 people who kind of had no interest in sports and really sort of building this company that is really well positioned to be a dominant player in sports gambling in the United States.
Albert, we're running out of time, but I want to remind everyone the title of this amazing book is Billion Dollar Fantasy, the high-stakes game between FanDuel and DraftKings that upended sports in America. Albert Chen, you wrote a fascinating book, and I urge everyone to pick it up because you will not be able to put it down. Albert, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Stay tuned for more Turnpike Sports.
Debt reduction depends on creditors' balances and payments, client testimonials, or dramatizations.
If you owe $10,000 in credit card debt and your minimum payments siphon away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit cards.
Get Debt-Free Now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Call Get Debt Free Now to resolve your debt once and for all.
My family no longer has 20 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. Make one monthly program payment and free up your cash. Call 800-683-4844. 800-683-4844. 800-683-4844.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With Private Healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready, and health insurance is your financial safety net. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, give us a call at 800-231-9279. That's 800-231-9279. 800-231-9279.
The Turnpike Sports Book Report.
And the Turnpike Sports Book Report is brought to you by BorgataSports.com. Your favorite casino is now your favorite sports book, available anywhere in New Jersey. BorgataSports.com. Sign up at BorgataSports.com using our promo code PIKE. That's P-I-K-E. And you get a risk-free bet up to $300 and $20 bonus at BorgataCasino.com. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, in this edition of the book report, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple different states. Not much going on, really.
Well, yeah, because
given the situation,
everything's closed down. But you can still
find stuff to bet on.
Bet online. So if you're lucky enough to be in a state that you can bet online,
and if you're lucky enough to have a sports book on your phone or your computer where they actually are searching for additional stuff to bet on, there's a lot of different sports that are happening, and you just got to look around and see exactly who's offering what. So, Let's talk a little bit about Pennsylvania. We didn't have a chance to do that last week. In February, they reported their numbers for the month. It's the first month-over-month decline in betting handle that they had in 9 months. Pennsylvania was a growing...
it was growing. But look, February,
Super Bowl.
The later part of February is always, a little less than before football's over. And
well, you got to remember, the Super Bowl was reported in January,
sure,
too.
Sure.
So,
well, the Super Bowl was February 2nd, so
right.
a lot of people bet in January. Yeah.
But they had a total handle of $329 million, just under $330 million, down 5.3% from the month before January. Total revenue came in at $11.4 million. That's for all eight online sports books and the 12 retail. Let's see. The online sports wagers amounted to $294.1 million. That's 89% of the total handle was online.
And this was all February, right?
This was all February.
Crap hit the fan.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, FanDuel was the leader, online sports betting as well as retail too. Let's see. The only other one that gained new handle or increased handle was Bet America because they had just launched.
Oh, okay.
So they were a new option for everybody. It was still the smallest online site with $1.4 million in handle. Indiana, and this is where it gets interesting. With the lack of sports to bet on, Indiana had actually increased the approved events for the state's sports books.
Great, okay.
They have.
So what can you bet on in Indiana now?
Besides the normal sports that are listed there, they have now included Australian, Japanese, and Brazilian basketball.
Okay.
I have no idea about any player in any of those leagues. I guess time to start boning up on some really out there sports.
Okay. You got to start researching now.
And table tennis.
So
ping pong.
Ping pong. Okay.
So
all right.
Again, there's ping pong tournaments going on. I believe Bet Rivers was actually one of the first ones that had it in Indiana. So it'll be fun to watch.
I'm actually going to check that out. I'm going to see.
I don't know where it's televised.
I have a whole bunch of ping pong. Not ping pong. I have a whole bunch of sports books on my phone, so I'm going to check to see if ping pong, or I guess I'll call it table tennis, right?
Well, that's
the
Indiana.
official name is
it's
table
Indiana.
tennis. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if it.
So
I'll have to see if it's around.
I want to see what New Jersey's going to do, if they're going to add it. I know they've got the esports betting bill pushing through. I don't know exactly when that's going to actually happen. But again, New Jersey hasn't announced any new additional events to bet on. Neither has Pennsylvania, but Indiana's being proactive.
I'm seeing lots of soccer on the sports books.
I'm seeing rugby too.
Rugby? Okay, yeah, I got to.
I know one of the rugby leagues just suspended all play, but there's still rugby. Australian rules football suspended play.
Okay.
So a lot of places that had Australian rules football, they can't do it anymore right now. Speaking of additional wagering items, William Hill has added Sumo Hanu Bashu 2020. That's a sumo wrestling league.
This is a sumo wrestling league. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I don't know exactly too much about the rules of sumo wrestling. I'm assuming it's like collegiate wrestling, but with two big fat guys wearing diapers.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's it. So
not to make fun of the sport, but
yeah, way to make fun of an ancient sport.
Is it ancient?
I guess. I don't know. Everything's ancient.
Yeah, I guess so.
But no, but it's hey. Some of these sports books also are streaming, especially the ones, if you have some of the books, if you're in a state with mobile, some of these websites, are streaming these events. So I'm curious to see if what events are streamed on some of these mobile websites.
Well, I remember sites like Rush Street Gaming's websites, Play Sugar House, Bet Rivers, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. They have virtual sports betting. They had it before sports betting became legal. I wonder how those portions of those sites are doing, because I remember seeing horse racing virtual. They had soccer virtual. I don't know how that was played, but, take a look around at some of the sports books. Maybe even if live sports aren't being bet on, some of these may be offering virtual sports. And it's something to keep in mind, especially if your sports book does have some of that set up. And last but not least, last week, before really everything started really shutting down, Colorado had approved 16 more licenses for sports betting, including Fox Bet, FanDuel, and PointsBet, and they still say they're on course for a May 1st launch, maybe, for sports betting. So, again, if you're in Colorado, you're inching closer and closer to getting sports betting. Don't know what you're going to be betting on, but at some point you will have sports betting.
And the Turnpike Sports Book Report was brought to you by BorgataSports.com, your favorite casinos, now your favorite sports book. Available anywhere in New Jersey, BorgataSports.com. Sign up at BorgataSports.com using our promo code PIKE, that's P-I-K-E, and you get a risk-free bet up to $300 and 20 bonus dollars at BorgataCasino.com. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And stick around because we have our By the Numbers segment coming up. So stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports.
We'll get right back to the show, but I want to take a minute to talk to you about Bean Genius. How would you like your coffee delivered right to your door every month, maybe 2 times a month? Well, now that can happen with Bean Genius. Bean Genius sells freshly roasted coffee from some of the best independent coffee roasters in the country at BeanGenius.com. And Bean Genius actually learns their customers' individual taste preferences, then suggests future coffee blends for them. Well, how do they do that? Well, this is the cool thing about Bean Genius. Over at BeanGenius.com, they use an algorithm which learns the coffee flavors you like and then pairs up what you like with the coffee that they have in stock. And it's all based upon you. Every time you order, the system learns. The system learns your preferences as you go along and order more and more coffee. And now, all our listeners at Turnpike Sports can get a special offer. You head on over to BeanGenius.com/subscription, and you'll be able to get 10% off your purchase when you use our promo code PIKE, P-I-K-E, at checkout. That's 10% off at BeanGenius.com/subscription with promo code PIKE, P-I-K-E. BeanGenius.com, the smart specialty coffee subscription service.
And By the Numbers is sponsored by Play Sugar House Online Casino and Sportsbook in New Jersey. Sign up at PlaySugarHouse.com/Pike and get up to a first deposit match of $250. Enjoy the casino experience online. Play Sugar House offers over 400 games online, slots, table games, even bingo. It's like being in a casino without leaving your home. That's PlaySugarHouse.com/Pike to get your first deposit match of up to $250 today. Must be 21 years or older and physically present in New Jersey. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit 800gambler.org.
And remember, that's Pike, P-I-K-E, PlaySugarHouse.com/Pike. Just head on over there, and you'll get up to your first $250 up to your first deposit matched up to $250, courtesy of Turnpike Sports.
Yeah, and I'm going to check out some slots today.
Okay.
I'm going to kick back and play some slots.
All right, this is the By the Numbers segment where we let the numbers tell the story. First number, 642,000 is the first one.
All right. I have no idea what that is.
That's the estimated number by the American Gaming Association of casino gaming employees that are prevented from working during the pandemic outbreak.
Wow, how much? Now
642,000.
Wow.
Now, that's going to change because they are continually updating, and I would suggest everyone go to the American Gaming Association website and keep checking in to see exactly what is going on in terms of people not working, what casinos are closed.
I've never seen anything like this. Atlantic City is closed. The Vegas Strip is closed. Casinos all around the country are closed. Card rooms, sports books.
Yep.
Absolutely unbelievable.
And every event's being postponed right now except for the World Series. I'm waiting to see what happens with that.
You mean the World Series
of poker. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
but again, 95% of the country's commercial casinos are closed, and every 8 in 10 of the country's tribal casinos are closed.
Okay.
There are still some casinos open. They're pushing it, I guess, but if they want to stay open, I know there's some in North Dakota that have reported that they're still open.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, it's 92% of all gaming properties in this country are closed right now because of the pandemic. 221,000 is our next number, and this has nothing to do with out-of-work employees or casino closures.
I have no idea what.
This is the number of views the Phoenix Suns drew in its first Twitch simulation on NBA 2K.
Wow, it's pretty good.
When everything was shut down with the NBA season, their marketing and HR department got together and they decided that what they were going to do was play out their season virtually.
Interesting. I mean, are they the only team doing this, or what's
other teams
going
are going to start doing it?
Okay.
But the Phoenix Suns were the first. They had 126,000 unique views of their first game. 221,000 views total, 126,000 unique.
Wow.
They also had their Twitch page, this is a silver lining to what's going on here. Their Twitch page, the team Twitch page, went from 0 followers on the Friday before they started doing this. The Tuesday after they did it, they have now 4,867 subscribers.
Wow.
So in a weekend, they had a 4,000% increase in their viewership on Twitch. Next number, 350,000. That's the number of people that watched F1's Grand Prix Bahrain virtual race.
I got to tell you, lots of virtual races now, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, we talked about it in the second exit today. We talked about it at the beginning of the show as well. But it's starting to catch on because of the social distancing. I always want to say self-distancing, but that's not even possible.
Yeah.
But 350,000 for the first F1 virtual race, and they're anticipating these numbers to continue to grow because of what's going on. And 20. I know after all those numbers,
20 seems...
That's the percent increase in viewership in over February of the Bass Pro Tour's third round.
Really? So people are watching fishing, huh?
They're watching fishing. They had 500,000 unique visitors watched over 19 million minutes of fishing in Stage 3 of the Bass Pro Tour Championships.
Huh. Okay.
The third stage was fished on Lake Fork, Texas, from March 13th to the 18th. And they had 500,000 unique visitors watching that stage.
You know, I guess a guy in a boat in the middle of a body of water, I guess that's good social distancing. So I guess that's a good sport to take part in, I guess.
That is exactly what the commissioner of Bass Pro Tour said.
Yeah.
Their sport is geared to allow for social distancing.
Oh, absolutely. Boy. The only thing is, I guess, the weigh-in. I guess you can't have people around.
They did not have a weigh-in.
They did not have a weigh-in. So,
now, I'm assuming the weigh-in.
I always thought you weigh a fish. That's how you win.
Well, they have the weigh-in in terms of not having everybody bring their fish up. I think they did something different in terms of how they measured the length of it, other stuff like that. Maybe they estimated.
Oh, okay.
But they avoided a public weigh-in with all their players or contestants, fishermen, whatever, and they were actually able to increase viewership on their MLF Now exclamation point website.
What was the website again? I'm going to check that out.
MLF Now exclamation point. That's what they call their website. So the MLF Bass Pro Tour is going strong, and it's another one of those sports that's taking advantage of the social distancing.
Great. Hey, good. It's a safe sport to be involved in. So, well, that'll do it for us this week. Hey, stay at home, stay safe, and watch some of these interesting sports that are being televised now.
Marble racing, Bass Pro fishing.
Hey, what the hell? Check them out.
And virtual racing.
Well, stay inside, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you next time on the Turnpike.